Oh, you know how we do like a funny quip to start the show? I don't have one right now. And you guys have done this before where you like find some dumb thing somebody said that was kind of funny and you like put it in as like a pre-blooper. Just do that. I'm sure someone's going to say something stupid because I'm in the podcast. So
it's going to be you.
Yeah, exactly.
That was probably just it. That was probably just the one.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe just use that. Welcome to Making Chips. What's up, guys? I got all
fellas.
my friends.
How are you?
How's it going?
Paul, Mike, and we have an awesome guest that we'll introduce in a bit. But I think the person we need to talk to right now is Paul, because he's all over LinkedIn on race cars and winning like a go-kart race.
I did not win any go-kart racing. One of our guests did. Super cool kid. But yeah, I was just down at Roush Yates Manufacturing Solutions in Mooresville, North Carolina. We did a VIP tour, behind the scenes kind of thing. Talked about how they use ProShop. Did a Q&A. Went and toured their engine shop where they build all the NASCAR engines and the EcoBoost for like Le Mans. And anyway, super cool. And then we went go-kart racing in the most epic go-kart track facility I've ever been to. It's truly professional grade. It was an absolute blast.
That's awesome.
And Mike, you missed out.
Yeah, I
were close.
Absolutely wanted to go and just could not make it happen. But next time.
Couldn't make it happen.
Next time.
Woo-hoo. So tell me about like this. You posted like the leaderboard, right, on LinkedIn, and I couldn't find your name on there. So I just assumed.
Oh, I was. Well, it was the guy that won that posted it. I didn't post the leaderboard. I was Racer XX. That's been my racer name since I was a kid. And I was fourth behind the three locals that go to this racetrack all the time. So
okay, so basically
they have hundreds of basically I did win. So yeah. It was so fun.
So tell me like okay, I have a go-kart thing local and it's really slow and really lame. Like this was not that, right?
This is outside. I'd say the whole track length was probably over a quarter mile, maybe half a mile, top speed of like 60 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty darn fast.
Do you like drift at all when you turn?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not the fast way, but you can certainly drift. But try to, fast and smooth. That's the way to go. Keep it mostly straight and have a good time.
Well, now I'm wishing I would have booked that flight.
Yeah, no, actually, Mike, it was terrible. It was no fun. So
I appreciate you boosting my ego there.
Well, speaking of boosting egos, I got a great intro for our guest here. I'm going to make him look like the hero he is, hopefully. Our guest today is a journeyman injection mold maker. That's how he started his career. He's been teaching for 20 years at Van Buren Tech in Lawrence, Michigan. He's also the president of the Michigan Machine Tools Teacher Association. So the boss of all the teachers, the one who can really send you to the principal's office. He has been using Titans of CNC's training curriculum since 2016. And then what I think is super cool is he sat on a statewide committee in 22 and 2023 to review machine tool curriculum and find credentials for machining programs in the state. And that's how you brought Titans of CNC up to like the official credentialed program for Michigan. So welcome to the show, Gabe Kooyers.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Great to be here.
Good to have you here, my friend.
Super good to have you. You're kind of like out there on social media quite a bit. And, one thing Titan says all the time is, this guy is a hero. And like you represent a whole category of people that are helping solve the biggest challenge that pretty much every manufacturer you talk to is going to say they have. I can't find quality people. And oftentimes it's machinists, but it's also programmers, it's engineers, it's everything. Like we have a problem. We need more people. And you're doing great work to solve that problem for the metalworking nation. So just wanted to give you some kudos and say thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, there's lots of teachers out there doing the same thing I am. The biggest difference is I'm just out there on LinkedIn and showing what the students can do. It's awesome to be able to use that LinkedIn network to really spread the message that high school students can do this. They can draw, they can program, they can set up, cut CNC parts, inspection. They can do it, so it's been a great couple of years since I've gotten onto LinkedIn and it's been cool.
Yeah. And I want to just dive deeper into that. There's a lot of people doing what you're doing and they're just not sharing it and promoting it. And I had the honor, I guess, to sit in on one of your meetings with all these teachers. It was super cool. And it was like Titan was included in the meeting. One of the things he was saying, and his buddy Dave, his like right-hand man Dave was saying, is like, these kids need somebody to like love on them and promote them and tell them how awesome it is that they can make these parts. And when the teachers like putting the spotlight on the students, being like, look at what he's doing. It's like the difference between like, yeah, I took a shop class and I was interested in it. Or like, man, I really can kind of identify with this and attach my ego to it a little bit and really build some confidence. And I think that's what you're doing. And so encouragement to everyone else out there who might be training students in CNC or any trade, like go and be their publicist. You know what I mean? Promote them.
Yeah. When I have people from all over the nation and all over the world commenting on students' parts and their videos and etc., they're like, wow, somebody from New Zealand commented on that, somebody from Washington, somebody from, Chicago or wherever, that really, they just like puff up and they're like, yeah, cool. They're boosting me up. I've had all kinds of companies saying, hey, do you want to move out of the snow and stuff of Michigan and move to San Diego or Florida or etc. So it really shows them a whole opportunity that they have to travel or to move different shops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to ask Paul and Mike a question here. They poll young people, and I'm kind of like halfway between young and old. I got a lot of kids, but I'm still in my 30s. They poll like millennials and whatever, Gen Z, Y, whatever's after that. And there's like one job that rises to the top as far as like, what do you want to do for your dream career? Do you guys know what that is?
I don't.
Kind of sad. It's influencer.
Oh, sure.
And it's like, oh man. And like, I guess, we're here on Making Chips. We have an element of that to us, but that kind of like, really, that's it? Like, that's what you want to be?
Manufacturing industry influencer. That's something to aspire to.
And I'm glad you said that, Paul, because that's what I think Gabe is doing by giving these kids a platform and saying, hey, share your work. Like, instead of what I think happens all the time is like, oh, kids these days, everything about them sucks. It's like, actually, let's take the stuff that they're really passionate about, they're really interested in, combine it with what the world needs. And like, let's like take the best of both. Right. And so manufacturing influencers, let's get people out there being like, hey, I made this part. I'm going to tell my friends about it. I'm going to tell my social network about it. And like, we're going to try to solve this problem a little bit.
Yeah. And there are those that just naturally put themselves out there. They're extroverted, they share, and there is genuine interest when people do that. People share the projects. Gabe, I know I've connected with some of your students that have made LinkedIn profiles and like cheer them on. And, it's a great way to get exposure and just build that network. And as they often say,
one example of that, Paul, you were with Nush, right?
I was with Nush.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we all know her?
Because she's put herself out there. She was,
Exactly.
I was so glad she made it to the event yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just shout out to everybody involved doing that and really like elevating the trade here. So we do a little news segment. So let's get some manufacturing news. We've talked a lot about this problem. We've talked about it, 50 times on Making Chips. There's a skills gap. We all know it. What I want to do, though, with the news today is I want to shine the spotlight on Jason Primo. He's on LinkedIn. Well, I think you know him. Like, if you're on LinkedIn and you're in this industry, he puts like really thoughtful posts together, and I just like what he's got. So I shot him a message because I saw some of the posts that he'd been putting out, and those posts were about how interest in the trades are actually declining. And sometimes like Paul, Mike, me, Gabe, like we're in this world and we see everybody trying to generate buzz and interest, and we probably feel like it's increasing. And, and I'm not trying to be negative or doom and gloom here, but here's like a couple articles I'm going to read real quick. Just pieces of the article. Junior Achievement USA writes, science, technology, engineering, and math careers have been hailed as the anchor of innovation and economic progress. However, despite the critical role they play in shaping the future, there's a concerning trend in the declining interest among students, particularly in non-medical STEM professions. According to the National Science Foundation, while STEM workers work to contribute to a significant portion of the U.S. workforce, there's a huge gender and racial disparity in the fields. Efforts to attract the upcoming generation to STEM careers have returned mixed results. Here's those results. Recent surveys reveal only a small percentage of teen girls express interest in non-medical STEM professions like robotics or computer coding. And then this disinterest is mirrored by a decrease in the number of teen boys that consider STEM careers. The most concerning aspect is the persistent gap between the representation of different genders and racial ethnic groups in STEM compared to other professions. Okay. And here's another one from the manufacturer. Engineering careers are seen as creative and versatile by most school students, and over half of young people believe they could become an engineer if they wanted to. But interest in engineering careers drops as students progress through school. So in year 7, this is an article from the UK. So year 7 would be like, I guess, 7th grade or 8th grade or something like that. 55% have an interest, but that drops to 39% by year 13, like your senior year. And gosh, like that sucks.
That's disheartening.
So,
yeah.
It really is. And here to lift us back up is our guy, Gabe. So Gabe,
thank you.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what you've done. And I guess the best way to start is, why don't you just kind of tell your origin story? I mean, we introduced you, we gave your bio, but tell your origin story a little bit.
So I was actually a student in this program back with, oh man, I don't even know what date, but I got a co-op job right out of this class. And my dad had gone through some downsizing. So I saw I need to get a skill, a trade, so that I could make my own path. You know, I didn't want to be, he was like in mid-management. I didn't want that. I want to be able to make something. And also I wanted to be an engineer. So this plastic injection molding co-op was my path to, they would pay for my engineering school. So I went into that and just really liked machining. And all along that, once I graduated, I continued in that, got my journeyman's card, and was making plastic injection molds. Well, I was sat on the advisory committee for my program that I just was in, and my teacher was retiring. And that was it 2002? It was starting to, industry was starting to go down. So I said, hey, I would like to do that. Well, because I had the machining skills, was able to get in to start teaching, and then just promised to, I went back to school to get all the teaching degree. So I continued on with that. Big milestones in my career. 2012, we really took a look at, to change enrollment and to get enrollment up, we need to be at the state of the art to show the students the next level. So we gutted the shop, painted the walls, put white epoxy on the floors. And it was funny because my boss, who actually was an automotive teacher, had said, man, are you kidding me? A machine shop, you're going to see oil and chips everywhere. I said, hey, what do NASCAR shops look like? And Paul, you were just there, so you know. So we looked at the data, and the next year after the white floors went in, my enrollment increased at least half of what I had before, So that was really cool. It was always manual machines and then graduating up to CNC machines. But yet employers wanted students to know how to draw, how to program, how to CNC cut. So I was just getting them just a taste of it, and then they were gone. So in 2016, we stumbled across Titan's videos, and then it was, oh my gosh, look at this ripping chips. This can happen. And then he came out with the academy, and the first time I met him was at IMTS. Every 2 years when IMTS happens, we bring over 100 students, or right around 100 students over, and we go to the show. And those years on IMTS years, man, they come back with such a gusto and such a fired up. It's awesome. So once the academy came out, the first year I did it completely wrong. I'm like, I don't know. There's 10 building blocks. Pick one. And I had students at 10, at 1, at 5, and that was the wrong way to do it. It's a systematic
building blocks.
Yes. Yeah. So the next year, I actually flipped it, and we went right into drawing and programming, because that's the thing. And even more so now, students have technology all around them, bombarding them. And so they need to be somewhat entertained. I mean, if you tell the student you're going to work on a manual machine for a year, they're going to be like, this is, they're going to move on. So we went right into 1 and 2 on the manual or on the CNC machines, and then we backfed the manual stuff. And so we went through that process, and now we have a system kind of set up where they draw, make their own print of a tap block, and they get basic lathe, basic mill, saw, that's it. Then they go directly into draw program, set up, cut, inspect 2 CNC parts, the first 2 parts in the building block series. Then after that, after 1 and 2, then they actually cut 2M manually over on the manual machines. And then 3, 4, do another manual part, 5, 6, another manual part, and back and forth like that. Normally in the course of a year, and because we're a tech center, students are here 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, they're able to get through 9 to 10 Titan parts and 3 to 4 manual projects. And then that's just been amazing, that back and forth. No shop teacher has 20 machines lined up. So I needed to find a way that, hey, if the manual machines are filled up, great, use a CNC machine. If the CNCs are filled up, great, go ahead and draw and program a part. So there is always something to do, and they're always hopping around.
Gabe, this is the first time we've talked. You don't know anything about my background, but I came out of like private equity and bought a manufacturing company. And I wanted to get hands-on, learn what we do, so forth. So I kind of came in maybe as a 15-year-old high school student with zero knowledge, right? And the quickest way I learned what we did was in our manual shop. I tried to learn a little bit on machines. It wasn't clicking for me. So I got over to an engine lathe and a knee mill and actually did like a little project we needed to do for the shop myself over a month or so. And all of a sudden it made sense to me. And then I was able to kind of transition and, learn a little bit about what we do on the CNC machines. And then at some point I drew a part and I programmed it, set it up, ran it. And it started to make sense for me. And if I poll my shop, I mean, we've been around for almost 50 years. I've got guys that have been here for over 20, and I have a bunch of 20-year-olds also. It's almost a mix of mid 40s to mid 50s and mid 20s to mid 30s and not a whole lot in between. And of course, my older guys are like, oh, if they didn't learn to run on a manual, they don't get it. Younger guys are like, I don't even know how to turn that thing on, don't want to. Some of my younger guys are my best machinists, hands down. Do you find that they're missing anything from getting that? Like, I needed it. Or do you still have kids coming through that kind of need that hands-on? They need to hear it. They need to smell it, taste it, feel it.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I've had students that just hit the CNCs and never look back. I guess in this model, that way, if they do need it, if they do need that hands-on portion of manual machines, it's available to them. Everybody gets a taste of it, but really, and that's the biggest thing, is employers want proficient CNC machinists and understanding how to maximize tool paths and etc. So, and if that's what the employer wants, and that's who my constituents are, right? Now, I still keep those manual machines in there because there are some of my local shops that they only have manual. So to be able to serve them, I need to do that back and forth, but
yeah, your blended model sounds great. Cause I know around here when we talk to, different, tech schools, career schools, so forth, it's like the manuals are gone. And it does seem to me, just kind of having gone through the experience myself, 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, there's an element of that really helped me. And as we bring some of our younger crew over there and have them do things, I mean, you do hear things differently. You feel things differently.
they probably amplify each other though, right? Like it's not all or nothing either way.
I would
feel
think
like,
so.
it's kind of like 1 + 1 = 3 on this in some respect.
Right. And I tell you what, the Titans of CNC Academy has revolutionized my class. So, I mean, it has taken up to the level where when they go to a local reseller, and we use Mastercam, when they go to a local reseller to do a industry training, they already moved to the third class. So, I mean, it's been really awesome to see what they can do and to have that little supplemental. Like, let's say they get into a shop where they do have a manual machine, they're competent enough to do enough, but then they're smart enough to say, "Hey, let's go ahead and bring this to the CNC."
Well, and gosh, nothing else, it gives them a little bit of street cred with the guys that have been around the shop for 40 years, right?
Right. Right. Because that's a dynamic that you got to maneuver. I mean, the students make a briefcase of their 10 building block parts, and we've partnered with Barber Packaging to make our foam inserts. That is definitely something that when students walk in, I've heard some industry, well, they all this fancy stuff. Well, it's like they've got their parts, they've got their inspection reports, they've got their setup sheets. They can talk you through the process. So
Yeah, to me, it's like the street cred is a good point. So it's like, okay, do you want to teach a kid in 2024 how to type or how to write cursive? Like, yeah, they're probably both important, but if you had to pick one, you'd probably pick typing. They're going to do a lot more of that in the future. And so that's kind of the way I'm thinking about it.
And that's the thing is only have so much time.
Yeah, exactly.
And Gabe, I love that you helped them make cases with the foam and the sample parts. When I was first starting out my shop, when I was like 23, I had a foam case with parts in it, and some of them were from my school days where we built the Formula SAE race car parts, and others were the first parts we did at our shop. And people love looking and touching and feeling parts, and then it sparks a conversation about how do you make this, or yeah, we make similar parts to these, and tell me about how you troubleshooted this thing or that. And such a fantastic learning and networking opportunity to do that as well. So good on you for that.
Well, thank you. I got that from Titan. One of his videos earlier said that's the best resume you can have. So we've started going down that road. Yep.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot more and more as we try to recruit. People know how to make a good looking resume and say things the right way and say, "Oh, I volunteered at this and I worked here and I programmed machines." And it's like, yeah, to what level, and show me what kind of parts you're making. For me, I'm not necessarily hiring the machinist, but when I see a resume, it's more like a sales or an application engineer type. Show me some of the projects you've worked on. Like I had to design a fixture to hold 1,000 of these on this kind of machine. And then they show you that. You're like, let's go. I want to hire you. I don't really care. Not trying to discount college or anything like that, because I think that's important, but I don't really care where your degree's from. Like, what can you do in my shop, in my company? So Gabe, give us another lesson. As you teach, the longer you teach, the better you learn, right? And I'm sure you're learning just as much from the students as they are from you. So like you talked about kind of screwing up and doing the building blocks in the wrong order. Like what are some other things that you've learned that might inspire other people, whether they're training, like we have an apprenticeship program. It's not what it used to be. And it's start on the manuals, you log a certain amount of hours, what everybody's used to. And it's just hard to keep interest. We don't even have anyone who wants to sign up anymore. And some of my best people came through that, like Mike, you've met Eddie, he was an apprentice at our company, and now it's like, I can't find the next Eddie. So what advice would you have for me to help revitalize our apprenticeship program?
The biggest thing is just, as a teacher, it can be daunting to ask industry for help, right? It could be daunting for a teacher to say, "Hey, I don't know how to do this," because then you've got industry going, "Well, you're supposed to be teaching this stuff." But things change so much. Industry, your advisory committee, which every machining program has an advisory committee, use them as a resource. That's the biggest thing as an instructor. Like, I'm a mill guy. I'm the first one to say that lathes, they're foreign to me. I know you talk to any lathe person, they're like, "Oh, it's easy. There's one less axis, but still it makes me really, really nervous with the CNC lathe and it, etc. But next year we're actually implementing rocket series for Titans, and we're going to start to be cutting those. For an employer, you want people, you want new apprentices, new blood. Reach out to those teachers, help them out. Say, hey, have you heard of Titans? And this is how you can get involved with it, and being able to just come aside to them and help them with that. That's two things that I really see that will help a lot.
Yeah, that's like valuable to know, because I see maybe I would be afraid to approach a teacher and be like, hey, can I help you craft a curriculum that would provide the type of people we want? I would be like, hey, they might feel like I'm toe stepping. And that's actually what you would want.
I would. Now, maybe the teacher's going to, maybe they won't like that, but a lot of them, they want to do great things. They want to do amazing cuts. They want students to get into this. But a couple things is, well, they don't know how to implement it. They don't know how to cut that fast. And that's where Titans really helped me. And also I have an amazing reseller for our Mastercam reseller, Mike. He was actually just here. I was able to say to him, hey, how do you do this to a path, or etc. Lean out on those people, and then industry embrace the schools and say, hey, this is what we need. And that's the whole reason that Titan did the academy. He saw what education was putting out and what industry needed, so that's why he came up with the academy. So if you as an employer are needing a certain level, come alongside that school and say, hey, I want to get these students to this level, and then I can bring in your students and we can make a great partnership. Along with that, because education, sometimes isn't as funded, and this trade is an expensive trade, maybe help them out with, cutters or stock or etc.
I have a question for all three of you that maybe other shop owners face. So again, I mentioned earlier, I've got a great young crew, right? I mean, I really do. But when I talk to them, they're like, what's it going to take to get to the next step? What's it? I want more. I want more. I want more. And it's a difficult question to answer in some ways, right? But I've told several of them, like, have you heard of Titans of CNC? Go do the program. Learn that program, come back to me with that skill set in addition to what you're learning every day. So then we hit a balance point in there too, where they're like, well, can I do that while I'm on the clock? I mean, some of it, right? I mean, but in my opinion, you also have to invest in yourself, right? I mean, I've had to invest in myself throughout my career and learn new skills and read books and, whatever. And, so we've kind of taken an approach. It's like, well, if you're invested in it, we'll make the resources available to you. We've got an engineering computer set up that anybody can come in and work on learning their CAD and CAM. We've offered machines available, like on nights and weekends. We'll hold machines open so you can go through that program. You've got a mill available to you to do those things. Is that an acceptable approach? Should I be doing more? Should I expect more of them? I mean, what do you guys think of how much should I do it on the clock? Should I not?
No, I hear where you're at, because like Hill needs to make parts for their customers while your employees are on the clock. That's like how you quote, right? You don't factor in like a huge percentage of their time they're going to be learning. But on the flip side, yeah, you want them to be able to do more and make more complex parts and be more effective and scrap less. So there's probably a mix to it. But I think like what we do, we had some students or employees that wanted to learn CAD, and they wanted to like get into that. So we would pay for them to go to a school like Gabe's, but like, so we pay as long as they get reasonable grades. They can't like flunk out and then we pay. So hey, that's on you. But we pay, and then that's how they get paid more when they're on the job. Like, you know what I mean? Because they've elevated their skills, but they can't like, sit there and do homework all day while I'm paying them to be a student.
Yeah, I'd say something pretty similar. I mean, we do give like a couple $1,000 a year of educational tuition credit to all of our employees. So we will, just like you, Nick, we will help pay them to go do a course or get a certification or something. So I could see, splitting a little bit. Maybe they can, log off work, early on a Friday and get paid for an extra hour while they're doing something, or maybe it's over a lunch break and you're providing the machines and the stock and the computers, and you're both investing in that person's growth.
I think that's kind of the boat we're in. I mean, I'm willing to do all of that, right? I mean, it's and part of it, I guess, for me too, just being entrepreneurial throughout my career, I want to see somebody. I mean, they want that, right? If they're willing to make that investment in themselves, then I'm willing to support that investment.
And I could see that where, there's a 3-part series, the CAD, CAM, and CNC. If hey, you invest in yourself, the CAD and the CAM at home or off hours, then hey, that third part, that CNC part, maybe that would work out to cut it on your.
Yeah, I'll provide the material or whatever, right? And you can use the shop machines. And
I think you're right, Mike. They got to show that initiative where they want to put in the time. They're not just, it's not just like, yeah, pay me $30 an hour to learn and I'll show up for it. They got to show the drive. They got to put the initiative in.
Yeah, I was, because we're obviously talking a lot about, people coming into the industry. And I'm just curious, how we can kind of take some of that same model and apply it to people that are already in the industry but want to grow.
Right. Kind of grow your own program. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mike, you mentioned entrepreneurial people, and I'm going to pass to Paul here because obviously ProShop, like, it does help with the machining process, of course, but it's more for like running the entire company. So, kind of what are your thoughts on that? Obviously Titan's teaching people how to make parts and do CAD and do CAM and everything like that. But I personally would want to train all my employees how to think like the business owner. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Gabe, you already mentioned, like, they're doing their setup sheets, they're doing inspection plans, and that's part of what they're learning. Being a well-rounded shop employee goes far beyond that, though, right? They should have some basic understanding of quality management systems, non-corrective, corrective actions, non-conformance reports, capacity planning, how to do the manufacturing planning process, work holding design, and even, some of the others as well, material certs, the concepts of traceability, and all those kinds of things I think are really important. And, Gabe, you and I have talked about us donating ProShop to your program, and hopefully we'll get there when the time is right. We do it with other student programs as well. We just think that learning more than just the basics of cutting and inspection are going to make a much more rounded person that's apt to get a good job, and then move up in responsibility should they want it, because they come in with a basic understanding of a lot of the basic shop functions and how the shop works.
100%. And, some of the stuff you listed is like covered, I guess, within the Titans of CNC curriculum, but let's go even a step further, like how to read a P&L, how to read a balance sheet. Like, you don't need to be a MBA level person, but to like, we have P&L reviews for every business unit. And I want my ops guy to know it as well as my sales and marketing guy or whatever. So, I think that's why we said before we recorded, this is going to be 2 parts, right? So, Gabe, you've brought so much insight into like how you've trained people how to operate as a great machinist someday, how you're serving those constituents that you talked about by providing them the type of talent that they're going to need in their shop. And then with Paul, in the next episode, Gabe, I'd love for you to come back next week if you can. But Paul, you've got some examples. You said where you've donated ProShop, and I was kicking this idea around with Gabe and Mike, like, and you too, Paul, like, okay, so now I know how to make a part, right? Let's talk about how to make a long-term profit too. So you got to make a part, right. You got to run it as fast as you can without sacrificing quality. You got to do all those things, but what can I charge for my machine rate on this one? Like all the things that a business owner has to think about. How do I attract talent? How do I get my friends to come and join? How do I get into certain industries because I'm certified for aerospace or whatever it might be. And so I think that's like a great, phase 2 of this, because Titan's a good friend of mine. I love the guy, and he loves me, and we just team up all the time as much as we can. And I feel like if we get people who do the Titans of CNC thing, and then we get people to like listen to some of what Paul and Mike and Jason and myself and all the people we've had on making chips on how to lead a business, like now we're actually starting to solve some problems in the industry too, right? Building more entrepreneurs, bringing people who already work. Maybe they're not an entrepreneur as in starting their own business, but they're an intrapreneur within a business because they get the whole picture. Like that's what I'm thinking about, and that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, and that's what business leaders and owners, that's who they want to hire, right? At least the smart ones. They want to hire people that are smarter than them, experts that will, eventually surpass them in their expertise and go on and help run the business for them.
I'm really good at that. Like pretty much everybody I hire is smarter.
That's a low bar, Nick.
And better looking. So.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Taller, if Jason was here, he would say taller.
I'm going to have to wrap up and say goodbye, guys, but
thanks, Paul.
See you next week. And thanks, Gabe, for joining. Great conversation. Yeah. Keep up the great work. All right. Cheers.
Yeah. Bill. Fly safe, Paul. Gabe, do you know how we end our show? We have a tagline.
Yeah. It's if you're not making chips, you're not making money.
Bam.